So my name is Samuel, I work with Simplygon, and I have a confession to make. I only worked there for 2 weeks, so if I do a mistake, laugh with me, not at me, please. So, how many here have heard of Simplygon before? A few? Okay, so I thought I'm going to just run through a very, very short introduction to what it is, and then I'm going to take you through a few use cases for Simplygon that might come in handy for you guys. So, yeah, we consider ourselves being the world-leading 3D optimization for game developers. It's been used in quite a few games by developers such as Blizzard, Rockstar, CCP, and a lot of others. We've been working for about 8 years, not me, but the ones that I joined. Martin over there is one of the founders. And over 100 titles have been shipped using our technology. And currently there's multiple games in production. So just a very short, brief overview of what Simplygon is. This is where it started. Making LODs is a very boring process. And if you can automate that and spend your energy on making quality content, that's a good thing. So eating polygons is where Simplygon started. But then you have other things, such as draw calls. So let's say that you're making 2 levels, where one level you have a big temple, which contains loads of different objects and materials that you want to look at up front and have a lot of detail. But then in the next level, you use the same object again. But then you don't want to sit and bake and rebuild the whole thing for the other level. So then we have something called proxy LOD, which creates an imposter that you can use in the other level automatically, very rapidly. And I'm going to show you how you can do this. And this also is part of Mesh LOD and Proxy LOD, where you can make a material LOD. Basically take a lot of different materials and combine them into one, which will only cost you 1 draw call, which is useful when you have a lot of characters and objects in the scene. Typically today, draw calls is the limiting factor, not polygons. And finally, aggregate LOD is a, let's say, material LOD version 2, which optimizes textures in a way that it reuses the way you put the UVs down, so that if you have a car, for example, with 4 wheels, and you use the same texture space for each of these wheels, it's going to keep that in mind once it optimizes it into 1 draw call. And finally, bone LOD. So when you make animations, is typically costing a lot of computation time on the CPU. And when a character is in the far distance, you usually don't need 80, 90 bones. So Simplygon can reduce bones for you, and realize which ones are the most important, which are the most defining for this animation, or for this character. You can also use Simplygon through its SDK, which means that if you have a lot of assets in a large AAA game, you might want to use a batch process that just goes through all the assets and applies one setting to optimize all of them at once. And usually you don't need to put any kind of hand afterwork once you set your settings. And it's also integrated with a number of tools, such as Maya that Graham just showed us, and 3D Studio Max, and Softimage, and also exists integrations with game engines such as Unity and UE4, and then probably some that I forgot. So, let me show you. I'm going to show you 2 use cases. The first one, I'm just going to load a scene here, Maya. I'm definitely not as comfortable, and actually I have to mirror the screen. Give me a sec. have a okay, great. There we go. So I'm going to load a character that we call Yuki Woman. This. So you can see that she consists of about, let's see, 9,000 triangles. And what we're going to do now is optimize her through Simplygon. And I'm going to create 3 lots immediately here. So what I can do here, let's close this. Just after installing the plugin for Maya, you just send this character to the interface. And here is Simplygon. And let's create 3 lots. And I'm going to do it the standard way now, the mesh lot. So I'm going to create a lot chain of 3 lots. What we're doing here is also creating a cascaded lot chain, which means that each lot that is created will be based upon the previous one. And the standard settings here are 50% for each character or lot step. So the first one is going to reduce the number of triangles by 50, and then another 50%, and then finally another 50. I'm going to also set that we use symmetry. Since this character contains symmetry, she's symmetrical, it's going to define places where it's symmetrical and keep that in the lots. I'm going to do that for all lots. This. And then also, for the first lot, I want to keep all the bones because that's going to be quite close up. But in the second and the third lot, I want to reduce the number of bones by 50% for each step. Like this. And then, let's just go. So I click this, and now it starts processing this and start generating these lots, and it's going to take about half a minute. So when this is done, we're going to be able to see how this lot looks in this interface. There you go. So now we can see it moved out to a distance. Here on the right-hand side, we can see when it will switch. So this area, it's going to use lot 1. This area is going to use lot 2, and this one is lot 3. And if I move in and out here, it automatically switches. But let's look at how this will look up close. So I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison, quite close now. And now you can see here on the right-hand side, this is lot 1. This is the original mesh. And I'm just going to switch to manual here. And I'm going to step through the lots. So this is the original on the right-hand side and the left-hand side now. Lot 1, lot 2, lot 3. And as you see, I mean, of course, at this stage, it looks quite ugly, but this is going to be very far away. Probably around, let's see, here. And you can see, you won't see any difference here. You can, of course, in Simplygon, you can, if you want, do usage weights. So for example, if you want Simplygon to take more, keep more polygons in the face, you could just select parts of this, let's do this, and then tell it to, well, let's paint a little bit. Say that this area, I want to keep more polygons in. And if I optimize this now, it's going to maintain more detail in the face. Now, for some characters you might need that, but for most you won't, because it's going to be at such a distance. And what Simplygon does is that it looks at per pixel how much the change will be to make sure that there won't be any popping. or the popping is minimal. We can also bring this back now to Maya. So I'm just gonna close this. And now we have all the lots here. I'm gonna break it up with a little script I wrote here. Pan here. So here we can see the 3 lots on the original mesh. So one of the things I said is that it's going to keep the animations as well. So let's just play through an animation that exists here. So you can see that it keeps all the skinning and all that information without any manual work. And if we go to a distance, let's say here, you see that they're virtually identical. So that's what I want to show you on MeshLoad. Now I'm going to move over to ProxyLoad. And for that, we're going to load a new object. So this is a big object. It's about 120,000 triangles. Possibly something that we have in a level which you can walk into, and if we look at it like this, you'll see that there's some details within it as well. And let's say that we want to take this object and we want to make it one draw call, because this consists of several materials right now. And we want to do that rapidly. So I'm just going to send this into Simplygon. And for this, I'm just going to create an imposter, ProxyLoad. Like this. And here I'm going to set it to optimize for the screen size of 300 pixels. I can choose whatever I like, but let's say that we defined it. This is what we want to make it for, so that it keeps the details. Makes it at 300 pixels, it's going to be changed as little as possible when you switch at that size. Also going to set clipping plane here, which means that I want to take away all the information that is underneath this object. I can choose which angle I want to put this clipping plane from, but in this case I'm looking at it from beneath because nobody's going to see anything internally. So optimize anything internally there. If we look at this object also, we'll see that, let's switch to material. You see that it consists of quite a lot of materials. Each of these colors is a unique material, and they're quite dense also in textures. So what I want to do is take all of these and make that into 1024. This. And let's switch this texture. So let's go with this. So now it's making this object into one object with one material and one texture that you can use in the background. And this is of course very useful also if you're porting a game that you have done for PC and you're porting it for iPhone, for example, with lower capabilities. You can just go through all your assets and just make one draw call for each of those. So now we have the object, and let's just bring it back into Maya immediately. So now we can see that it actually, this is the other version. It contains, it's 3,400 triangles, and this one was 123,000. But it doesn't look that good, because right now I'm using default rendering Maya, which doesn't handle normal maps. So I'm going to switch to viewport 2, which resembles modern game technology. And what you can see now is that most of the details that was taken away from the mosque is now captured in the normal map that was generated for this object. And of course, I mean, if we go very close up, you'll see that there are differences. But this is meant to be at about this size, and there's almost no differences whatsoever. And also, if we look internally here, you'll see that there's no details inside the object, whereas, so all of these things were taken away because we set the clip in play there. So Simplygon is a very fast way of taking assets that are complex and making them usable on less capable platforms, or for example, for making logs and things like that. So that was what I want to show. Do you have any questions? I'd be happy to ask them. Yes?
You're using a Mac, but it looks like you've got a Windows interface there. Is this only available on PC?
It exists on PC only, yes, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So far, yeah.
Thank you.